2023 had some amazing new fantasy and sci-fi releases, and I am pleased to say that 2024 will not be letting up. So prep those TBRs, because here are some fantasy and sci-fi releases releasing in 2024 that you should know about. Prepare to have no social life for another year. In January, we will be getting Elegy of a Fragmented Vineyard by Caden Love. Now, Caden is a new author and this is his debut book, so I'm purely going off the premise and the fact that I'm good friends with Caden, so however, it sounds fantastic. Perhaps fantastic is the wrong word and horrifying is more accurate, because in this world, babies have started to manifest abilities from the gods, and now the people are harvesting these babies' organs to gain these abilities. Horrifying. Coming out in February, we have The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the author of the Foundryside books, which are really popular, but this is a new book in a new series, and I'm going very much off Patrick Leo's review on this. He called it Knives Out meets Attack on Titan, and that just sounds incredible. Featuring an unforgettable Holmes and Watson style pairing, a glorious labyrinthine plot, and a haunting and wholly original fantasy world, The Tainted Cup brilliantly reinvents the classic mystery tale. As a Watson myself, I am sold. I will leave a link to Patrick's review in the description below, because when Patrick says something's good, you check it out. Dropping in April, we have The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Jelly Clark, who is the author of Master of Jinn, which was one of my favourite books of that year. So I am very excited for another fantasy release from P. Jelly Clark. The Dead Cattail Assassins are not cats, nor do they have tails, but they are most assuredly dead. Nebula and Alex Award-winning P. Jelly Clark introduces a brand new world in a fantastical city full of gods and assassins. A guild of dead assassins? Yes. One of my most anticipated reads of the year drops at the end of February, which is Empire of the Damned. Now, I loved Empire of the Vampire. This is not one to throw about, because this is one chunky book, to the point where I might be putting this in my top 10 fantasy books of all time. I loved this book so much, so I'm so amped for book 2. I love this story. I love the scale of the story. I love J. Kristoff's writing. Bring on book 2. I will be dropping everything and reading that when it drops at the end of February. Also coming out in February, we have the third and final Empire of the Wolf book. Now, I've not read these yet, but it gets such a good name. And from what I've heard from the early reviews, this seems to be a very good conclusion to the trilogy. Coming out in March, we have Rob J. Hayes' Eater Saga. If you backed his Kickstarter, you will be getting these 3 books in March. What's really interesting about this series is it is a 9-book series, 3 trilogies, but they will be being released concurrently, which means we are getting the first 3 books of each trilogy, and it means you can pick what part of the timeline you read first. And some of the past stuff will relate to the future stuff and vice versa, and it's all just kind of this interwoven, huge scale story that takes place over thousands of years. I'm a huge fan of Rob J. Hayes' War Eternal books, and I'm really excited for this Eater Saga. And the magic system is eating angels. It's eating angel meats. I'm still crossing my fingers for a angel recipe book from Rob, but we'll see. Also coming out in March, we have In the Shadow of Their Dying by Michael R. Fletcher and Anna Smith Spark. Now, this is a grimdark novella, and I have heard that this story gets dark, which makes sense given that both of those authors are really known for how dark their books get. So to have their combined brain power to concoct this evil, dark novella, I'm intrigued. I want to see how dark it can really get. And the cover and the typography, stunning. Next on up, we have the book that broke The World. This is the sequel to The Book That Wouldn't Burn that dropped this year, which was one of my favourite new releases that I read this year. Book 2 doesn't have a cover yet, so I'm just going to show the cover for Book 1, but I really enjoyed Book 1. It's such a unique and bizarre story, very theme heavy and unlike anything I have read before. And some of the reveals with the characters and the world building and this library, particularly towards the ending, has me so excited to continue this story. Coming out in May, we have the Silverblood Promise. Now, this is another one that I heard about from Petrick, who did a review and compared this to Lies of Locke Lamora, Foundry Side, and First Law, also claiming that it might be the best fantasy debut of 2024. Set in a city of traders, thieves, monsters, and murderers, this fast-paced epic fantasy debut is a must-read for fans of Joe Abercrombie, Nicholas Ames, and Scott Lynch. I'm a sucker for thieves in a big city, in heists and mystery. I'm here for it, and that might be one of the best covers of 2024 as well. In July, we have one of the books I am probably most excited for, which is the sequel to Flames of Mira, and it is called Into the Rift. I've made it no secret how much I've enjoyed Flames of Mira. I talk about this book occasionally, once or twice maybe. So needless to say, I want it. I want it now. July seems too far away. I do feel like we've only seen the tip of the iceberg with this world. There is so much that I want to know more about. And I feel like the dynamic between the two characters in this second book will be really interesting to see how it is developed. So yeah, I'm excited. We are also getting the sequel to The Will of the Many. This does not have a release date yet, but it should be coming in 2024. And this book I've not read yet, I just got this in the mail this week. However, it is so many people's favourite book of the year. It seems to be getting 5 stars across the board, so I'm really excited to read this Roman-inspired fantasy book. And then hop into the sequel that is releasing next year. Also, another one that hasn't been confirmed is the third book in The Burning, the first being Rage of Dragons, the sequel being The Fires of Vengeance, the third being The Lord of Demons. Now, I love this series. This is another series that I don't feel like I talk about enough because I enjoyed it so much. Now, according to Amazon and Goodreads, we might be getting it on the 21st of March of 2024. However, this has not been officially announced. However, I'm willing to bet that it will release in the year of 2024, and I will be reading it when it releases in 2024. This is an African-inspired setting and mythology with some really fun world building and character arcs, particularly once we get into book 2. Tao is just underrated as a protagonist. I really enjoyed reading his story, and I can't wait to continue it with book 3. Also unconfirmed, we will probably be getting The Doors of Midnight in August, which is the sequel to The First Binding. This is another one that I've not read yet, however, it just sounds right up my street. I have read the first chapter, and I love the writing style. It is very reminiscent of Patrick Rothfuss and The Name in the Wind, so I'm hoping that I'll get to this before the sequel comes out in perhaps August, unconfirmed. And it is likely that we will be getting book 7 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. Now, again, I have mentioned this series once or twice. For a series that I picked up on a whim, this has become one of my favourite series of all time. The fascinating world building, the hilarious humour, really, that's what you've got? Great character work and plotting, and this overstory of this political galaxy and all the maneuverings with all of that. There's just so much to this story to enjoy, and I cannot wait for book 7. And last, but certainly not least, we have Knights of Wind and Truth, or just Wind and Truth, the 5th Stormlight book from Brandon Sanderson. Now, Stormlight Archive is my favourite series of all time, so the fact that this is the final book in the first arc, this is a 10-book series in 2 arcs, so this is the first arc finale, I'm worried. I think there will be some important deaths in this book. I also think that we will get some really interesting Cosmere related reveals in this book, particularly tying into some of the other stories, because as the Cosmere goes on, we seem to have more and more crossovers and connections between the books, which I love. That is coming out in December, so I will be dropping everything to read that in December. I also plan to make a ton of Cosmere related videos, and Stormlight in particular, on the lead up to Stormlight 5, but of course Stormlight 5 is my most anticipated book for the whole of 2024. Also, not really anticipated release, but the sequel to my book Harbinger of Justice will be coming out at the end of the year as well. Feel like I'd be a bad businessman if I didn't at least mention it. And it is anticipated because I am looking forward to getting it out there. Now, this is far from a comprehensive list. There are a ton of other books that are coming out in the year of 2024 that look incredible. These are just some that jumped out to me. And of course, there will be a lot more announced in the year of 2024, which is why I do new monthly release videos for the new releases that are coming out that month. And that will continue into 2024. And that'll do it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and please let me know in the comments below, what are you most looking forward to reading in the year of 2024? And a huge thank you to my patrons who keep this channel alive. Over there is bonus videos, writing snippets of whatever I'm working on, and you also get to pick what books and then vote on what we read for the monthly book club. So thank you again, your support is huge. Thank you very much for watching. Outro.